Three, two, one.
Welcome to Doctor on Call with your host, Doc Griffin. The doctor will be with you momentarily. Our guest this evening is legendary adult film actress and artist Ginger Lynn Allen. Warning: Doctor on Call is intended for oral ingestive use only. Other ways of using this talk show will be ineffective. Consumption of alcohol may intensify the effects. As always, consult your doctor first. Doc Griffin, paging Doc Griffin, you're needed in the OR. Stat.
And thank you very much, Nurse Adamantine.
That was such a nice introduction, nurse. Thank you so much.
And today, well, I tell you what, we really don't need to jump into the diagnosis, but we will check the symptoms first. So, without any further ado, I would like to introduce my guest for this evening. Avian called her number 7 in the best actresses of all time for the adult industry. Please welcome Miss Ginger Lynn Allen.
Woo! Yay! Welcome me. Glad to be here.
And it is great to have you. Now, of course, in order to be able to figure out if there's any type of ailments, we have to check the symptoms. So we're going to go roll all the way back to you as a child. Now, you grew up in Illinois. Uh,
Yes.
uh, what kind of opportunity did you think you had as a kid? What were you thinking of becoming?
I always wanted to be famous. I always wanted to be someone who entertained. I used to put plays on in my garage when I was probably, I'd say 9 or 10. I began doing it, and I would get old 45 records, and I would get two of my neighborhood girls to back me up as backup singers, and we would choreograph and sing and dance, and I would charge all the neighborhood kids a nickel to come and watch. We would change it 2 or 3 times over the summer. I wanted to be a rock and roll star. I want more than anything, but I can't sing to save my life. Uh, yeah, so that didn't work out so much. But I just knew that I wanted to be bigger than Rockford. I didn't want to be someone who grew up in a suburb of Chicago, which is what it is at this point. It's actually 90 miles north of Chicago near the Wisconsin border. But I just felt like I was bigger. Like I didn't fit in, and I had my train of thought, the way that I felt about things, who I was. I just felt that I was not a Rockford, Illinois girl. I will never forget where I came from. I love where I grew up at the time. Uh, but I needed more. I physically, emotionally, mentally, just every ounce of me needed more than just working a 9 to 5 job or even going to college and getting a degree. I needed to create in one form or another.
So, uh, essentially, as you were getting to your teen years, as you were getting to the point where graduation was looming and people are like, what are you going to do with your life after you graduate? Did you have any intention whatsoever into moving into college or some form of other education?
Well, I'm the oldest of 4 children, and parents don't always plan as well for the first one as they do when they realize they've got many more coming along. So my sister, she went to surgical school. She was a surgical technician. One of my brothers is a chemical, or not chemical, he is an environmental engineer, and my other brother is an editor for school textbooks. uh, and I chose the creative path. I studied at the Beverly Hills Playhouse for 6 years.
Now, that entails making a big move, going across the country. Was there anything that initiated the move going from Illinois to California?
Well, my initial plan was to move to California the day I graduated with my grandparents. They were moving, and I I fell in lust or love or I don't know, puppy love, some stupid shit with some boy and didn't go. I mean, I had brand new tires on my car. I was ready to follow them out. We were moving to California and I made the bad choice of sticking around for a boy. 2 years later, my grandfather had a severe heart attack, and
Oh,
I was asked to come to California because I was his favorite person in the world and see if I could give him a little bit of energy and zest for life again. But he was to the point where he would not be able to feed himself or take care of himself. And my grandfather passed about 2 weeks after I came to California.
oh my.
It was it was one of the most difficult times of my life. My grandparents are my favorite people in the world, next to my father, who is just an amazing man. He's passed on as well now. But anyway, so back to happier thoughts. I when my grandfather passed, I flew back in the meantime. Okay, so he's in the hospital. I'm working at Musicland. I'm a troubleshooter. And what that means is I had 9 stores. My job was to go in and turn stores that were in the red into the black. I had been managing Musicland stores for 2 years at that point, and I walked into one of them in Redlands, California, and they said, "We need a troubleshooter." I didn't know what that meant. I thought, great, I have 9 stores. That meant 70 hours a week. Nobody liked me. I was the boss. And eventually I found that working 70 hours a week and making $2,000 a month, living in Southern California in a studio apartment with rats in the non water filled swimming pool was not quite the lifestyle that I was looking for. So I answered an ad in the paper for nude modeling. I knew that at 5'2", I was not going to be anything other than, well, they called it figure modeling. And I had a figure. So I posed for Penthouse magazine and 3 months later made the decision to do my first adult film.
And let's kind of back up for just a minute because I
Sure.
think there's a lot of speculation and uh, a lot of hearsay that there's a stigma where people think, well, this girl got into porn just because of the fact that she had an abusive childhood, looking for a daddy figure or something to that extent. This definitely does not seem like the case. It seems like you had made a conscious choice. You saw where there was money to be made. You had a good career, but you.
I did. I had a promising career with, until Napster, uh, and CDs and everything else came out and record stores went away. But yeah, I didn't know that I would make the choices I did within the adult film industry. There was no, I wasn't poor. I just wasn't living the lifestyle that I chose to live. And so it was definitely a conscious decision. And I've always been just very comfortable with my sexuality, with my nudity. I have healthy boundaries. I've set those for my life. My father, my grandparents were amazingly wonderful to me. I was never sexually abused. My mother, she's a sociopath, and so I was physically abused, but that didn't drive me into the arms of porn. I went into porn because I love sex. The money, I made more money in a day than I made in a month, and I got to choose. I chose my cast. I had script approval, cast approval, and I demanded the pay rate that I was comfortable with. So for me, I got into it during the golden age. There was it wasn't dirty or nasty or disgusting. I was treated like a princess. There were always M&Ms and M's and artichokes on the set. And yes, I did eat the green ones. Uh, I wasn't a prima donna, but I was known somewhat as a bitch because a lot of times producers would get you on the set and go, well, let's just do this. Let's do a little bit of that. Here, have a bump of this, and you'll want to do that. And I made a few mistakes and then decided that I would never do that again. I never wanted to compromise who I was, make decisions that I wasn't comfortable with. I wanted to be there because I wanted to be there. I wanted to fuck the people I wanted to fuck because I wanted to fuck them. And I wanted to have a good time. The day that I woke up and decided I wasn't having a good time, that's the day I quit.
Well, and I, I don't want to go too in depth with the experience, but I read that your first scene was with Jerry Butler, rest his soul. Um,
That's partially true. I had told my agent that I agreed to do adult films. I said, okay, I want cast approval, I want script approval, I want this much money. And he was on the floor laughing hysterically, telling me that, that's what big stars made. And I said, well, then I'm not going to do films. So, long story short, I was cast as the lead or one of the female leads in a film called Surrender in Paradise starring Jerry Butler. Well, once all of my terms were agreed to, I freaked the fuck out. I went, oh my God, I have never acted in my life. I've never fucked on film. What if I get there? I've got this huge responsibility and I can't pull it off. So I did something, I did two what they call loops back then.
yeah.
These were shot on 8 millimeter film. The first one was with Tommy Byron. It was a half an hour, no sound, 8 millimeter film shot by Michael Carpenter. And the second thing I shot, not to bring up disgusting, foul things, but the second scene was with Ron Jeremy. And after I did the scene with Ron, I made sure that we did it doggy style so I didn't have to look at him.
Oh,
And I decided that okay, now I know that I need to have people on my list because I didn't know anybody. So Jerry Butler, when they asked me to approve him, I'm like, oh, he's fun, he's hot, built, great. Ron Jeremy was a tester for me, and I passed the test knowing that if I could fuck Ron Jeremy, I could do anything.
and eh, and Tom Byron is actually one of the people that I've been trying to get on as well for the male perspective. But
Tommy's a tough one to catch. You got to get him at the right point in time. He's a great guy.
yeah, and he's advanced in his career outside of the business as well. And so have you. There are so many things, and I don't want to speed along and miss anything because there's a tremendous build to this. When you were doing adult films, uh, there was, and you can disagree with me if you want. There was actually a little bit of focus on having a script, on having a plot, making a movie, so to speak.
Oh, much more so than a little focus on it. My first script was 120 pages long. Most of my films, out of the 69 films I did in my first 2 years and 3 months before I took a 13-year hiatus, uh, over 40 of those were shot on 35 millimeter film. So I had the luxury of the big budgets, the big scripts, uh, the real writers, real directors, people who came from mainstream. There wasn't this big porn community, it was all brand new. So my directors were real directors. My scripts were elaborate, and there would be it would be a regular full on script, and several times throughout the script there would be one sentence, it would two words actually, that just said sex scene, and you knew that there would be a sex scene at that point in the script. We had caterers, we had wardrobe people, we had makeup artists. It was Hollywood, only with real fucking.
And a lot of people don't know or understand. I've had an occasion to interview um, Wes Craven, and he more than alluded to the fact that in order for him to make his money and get the experience, that he shot loops in New York City when he was coming up. Also, uh, Charlie Kaufman, Lloyd Kaufman's brother, and I forget which movie that he made, but it was critically acclaimed. He also started there. So,
Well, the nice thing about adult films is I call it back in the day, and even more so today, although I don't really call them films. Uh, I would call it guerrilla filmmaking because you had a small set. I mean, my first film, we had 50 people on it. We flew to the island of Maui or the island of Kauai, and it was $250,000 budget. Now, all of my films did not have those types of budgets, but they all had Hollywood quality production values. But you had to do those productions in a very short period of time. I made 2 films in 2 weeks the first time that I actually flew to Hawaii and did my films. Uh, so now I forgot the question.
oh
Oh,
no,
so guerrilla filmmaking. So what doing adult films trains you to do is to do a film as quickly, as efficiently, as effectively, and as professionally as you possibly can.
and um, I may be a boomer, but I found myself not in any way enthused once the late 90s, the 2000s hit about watching adult films because there was really nothing there. I I did watch porn and I did like having a script. I mean,
Yeah,
I did like having a storyline that followed through because there are some out there that will amaze you, and I'll give props to Axel Braun.
yes.
He does all the parody films, and I think he's bringing back the genre where story does matter.
Well, I think story always has mattered. I think that budgeting and the internet and the easily accessible availability of anything that you want at any point in time that you want, plus all of the pirating, made it so that even the film companies like Axel Braun and the directors that do the big films, it's so hard to make money doing them. There are a few people, a few companies that still do, but they're losing money. They're not, no one's going, oh wait, new Axel Braun film. There's $100,000 budget and a script, because you're gonna watch that movie, but the next day it's going to be available free everywhere on the internet. It's almost impossible to protect your product these days. So I don't think that the days where big films, big budgets will ever come back again. You've got 18 million Joe Blows with their own handheld video camera shooting scenes of girls sucking their dick. That's not, to me, porn was a craft. It was an art. It was an artistic process. It was uh, something that a lot of people put their heart, their soul, their pussies, their cocks into, and made something they were proud of. I'm proud of almost every film that I made.
And there's one thing that I really wanted to bring up because it was a the time that you were in the 80s, mid 80s. It was a transitional time because of the fact that um, there were it became a little more glamorous because movies like Deep Throat and Behind the Green Door got nationwide release and
Right.
in some way got a social acceptance to it.
They did. They absolutely did. There was still the stigma that went along with the raincoat crowd and people that went to the theaters. But I remember my very first premiere at the Pussycat Theater, where, I walked down the red carpet in a little Marilyn Monroe dress and a fur coat, fake fur, and we had big fucking premieres. It was the real deal back then, and now it's so different. Anything that you want to see, you have the ability to see it. But I don't think that those big days of big budgets and real movies with real scripts are going to come back. If anything, it's happening on mainstream television. It's happening on HBO. I never watched the Game of Thrones. My son turned me on to it last month, and I just binged 7 episodes in the last 2 months. And there's with the exception of watching that dick go in, I was pretty turned on and a lot of different scenes in there. So maybe Hollywood will be the next. That way, we'll still get the big budget. There was a film called Nymphomaniac, Part One and Two,
Yep.
with real actors and cocksucking and cum in her mouth and spitting it back out. And I'm like, okay, this is on my television. I'm not paying extra for it. This is not hardcore, or this is not porn. This is hardcore mainstream films, which is the same thing that I did in the beginning.
Well, and the French and Italian films have actually been doing that since the late '80s and early '90s too. But more recently, uh, uh, John Cameron Mitchell, who did the movie Hedwig and the Angry Inch, he also made a movie called Short Bus, and
I love the title.
Short Bus is basically about the underground sex community in New York City,
Oh,
and
really?
then there was full on sex in it. It was rated X, but it still got excuse me, it was unrated, and it still made it to some theaters and gave it a little bit more credence with the mainstream because it not only showed heterosexual but gay sex as well, and treated both of them properly. Not like it was a dirty thing. It's this happens, this exists, this is a fact. And
Well, and I think what you just said it makes perfect sense. It wasn't dirty. And the films that I made in the 80s, they weren't. I mean, yeah, we did some nasty things, but they weren't dirty. Somehow me looking like the girl next door, enjoying what I did as much as I did, and it being, for me, it was real. My sex scenes were real sex scenes. My goal was to enjoy the person that I was with and make sure that the camera crew was turned on at the same time. So I think the perfect place for X-rated films in our market today, the things that I would like to see are going to be the French films, are going to be the HBO you know, what do you, the series that they do. Those are much sexier. If I watch porn, which I rarely do, I would much rather watch two people that really like to fuck each other, that are a couple, normal people, because it's real. I am so sick of, ah, and nobody's fucking touched you. Okay? I'm sorry. It takes a little bit more time than that.
well, and I mean, a lot of it is like I can see where you wouldn't watch adult films just because of the fact that if you work at McDonald's, you don't want to eat the food there.
Well, and yes and no. For the longest time, I didn't watch because I was in everything. And then, and then after that, it just became either I knew everybody in the movies or I got kind of bored. As time went on, my kinks, my turn-ons, the things that I wanted to do became more and more excessive and creative and fun. Um, I'm twisted in the right direction. Let's just leave it at that.
Well, and it sounds like a healthy thing. Now, when it came down to script approval, did you ever sit down and say, well, I want this in here, I want to do that? Um, were you able to push the directions of the scenes that you
Oh,
filmed?
absolutely, absolutely. One of the things that I did that again caused me to have a reputation was I had difficulties with directors. Let's say I'm in the middle of a blowjob and the director goes, "Okay, I need you to flip over and your ass up in the air." And it would infuriate me. No, I am in the middle of an intimate act with another person. You are not in this scene. If you want to direct me, you tell me ahead of time things you need in the scene, and then you follow me. If you want my best performance, you're going to let me do my thing. If you're going to tell me to flip and flop and upside down and I need this now, we're not going to work together. I'm not going to be any good, and I don't want to fucking work for you.
And
So
and
there were many times where what I would do usually was go to my partners and just, if they were we were just new, getting to know each other. What do you like? What do you want to do? What's your turn on? If we'd worked together before, it's like, hey, you want to go this far? You want to try doing this? You want to do that? When I signed with Vivid, when I became the first contract adult film star, which was kind of similar to being, one of the studio stars back in the days when the studios had big stars.
I
And
was going to say it was very MGM.
it really was. It really was. I signed with Vivid Video in 1984, and I worked for them. I believe I did 17 films. But the deal I had with Vivid was that I was more than happy to be exclusive for video, but I was not willing to give up my film work. So I had complete control on the Vivid films. I actually co wrote nearly all of my films for Vivid.
Well, and that definitely says more about the time as well, because what I was moving into was from the 70s. You basically had women that were available to do sex, but when you got to the 80s, there were women who could actually act and were okay with doing sex.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I do have to compliment you. You are one of my favorite actresses when it
Oh,
comes to it, because it's the middle scenes between all the sex that strings everything together. And if you've got somebody acting like a cardboard cutout until they get to the next sex scene, then I'm done with the flick at that point.
exactly. I'm right there with you.
That's one of the things that I think the 80s revolutionized until video became mass market, when these guys were like, well, hell, we can do 16 scenes on a 2-hour tape, and we don't have to have anything behind it besides sex.
Yeah.
And I think
So
that's where they lost it.
is that still porn? I don't even know what porn is anymore. I don't. I mean, is it just if a film that has sex in it? Is porn just people fucking? Is porn, picking up a girl in the back of a bus and fuck? I don't know what porn means anymore.
um I think there is a difference, and I say porn on purpose, as I say adult films on purpose. Like Axel Braun makes adult films.
I
Um,
agree.
he did the one Pirates one, and all the superhero ones. I will tell you this: Justice League, the Justice League film that Axel Braun made was better than the Warner Brothers Justice League film.
I haven't seen it. I'll have to check it out.
I mean, yes, there's going to be sex in it. That's something that you are going to have to accept. And why would you be watching it if you didn't think that the sex would be a part of the deal? But
Right.
as far as it goes, he puts story into it. I
That's what makes the difference.
Yeah, and I intentionally also watched it, the what they call the whitewash version, where they cut out all the sex scenes.
Oh, I didn't know they did that.
Yeah, there's a guy on YouTube who cuts out all the sex scenes and
Oh, funny.
and edits it together, and it's just as cohesive as the movies that the big film studios are putting out.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is amazing because there are people putting out effort. I know one of the big things to help, and pardon the pun, but fluff up the industry was in the late 90s and early thousands was doing celebrity sex tapes. And I
Yeah, everybody leaked their own celebrity sex tape, and people like to fuck, and if you're good looking and you want other people to fuck, and it's going to promote your career, yeah, it was kind of something people did. I don't believe for a second that anything was really stolen or accidentally put out there.
oh no,
Uh,
completely. It's trying to feign false modesty for something that they knew was going to be a big dollar deal.
yeah,
and and
yeah,
and I don't fault them for doing it. Some of them did it for the attention, like Paris Hilton, because she was
right,
already wealthy beyond the dreams of avarice. But
right.
people like Kim Kardashian, who is to me a social void. She, I,
Okay.
it's just it. To me, the whole deal was you had to get me involved with the storyline.
Yes.
I mean, one of the best movies, and I'll still say this, and I'll recommend it, is The Devil and Miss Jones. That should have been classified as a horror film,
Yes.
and a lot of people are just like, oh, there's just screwing going on, and I was like, yeah, not only sex, but screwing with your mind.
Yeah. Yeah. There have been some brilliant films made. There really have.
And I mean, do you think honestly that the stereotype can be broken by because there's too many people out there saying that adult films are just to get off. They're just for a 15-minute watch or however long you last.
Well, there is that. I mean, I have my spank bank in my head. I've got things that I'll go, all right, I want to come really fast. I'm going to turn this on. Um, but that's a different thing. If I just want to get off, I'm going to watch that 3-minute segment that gets me off. But if I want to get turned on, if I want the whole experience, I want the movie. I want the lead up. I want the tease. I want the anticipation. I want to can't wait to see your dick go in that cunt. I can't, I want that build up.
Well,
So I don't know if there'll ever be. I think what's going to happen is it's going to stick with everybody and their brother that can and will make their own video will do it. And so you've got the low end, the extreme low end, the guy with his camera just getting his dick sucked. And then it gradually gets higher and higher and higher. And there's even lower than that. There's, how many goldfish can you put in your ass? And then it comes down to, is this really sex or is this just shock value? Uh, but if we can find a spot where, okay, we've got the kinky dirty, get me off real fast, but we can expand and go back to real movies with real sex. That's what I want to see. I don't know if I'm not going to go out and buy an Axel Braun movie.
well,
I'd rather watch something on HBO that's got sex in it without the real dick because it's more of a turn on. Because
well,
again, even with the Axel Braun movies, you've got great storylines, but when it comes to the fucking, everybody's on Viagra. It's ABC 1, 2, 3. There are people who still enjoy it, but the majority of the people who do porn today do it just to make money. I wanted to increase my money, but I wanted to be famous. I wanted more than that. I needed to enjoy what I was doing. And today it's a job. And for me, it was a rebellious, against the law, group of people who were willing to get caught doing something they weren't supposed to do, a group of people who loved what they were doing. We were this renegade group of fuckers.
and I know there's tons of stories out there when John Holmes was performing. There were many stories about how um, they would be given the location like an hour before the shoot, and they would have to show up because of the fact that the uh, the porn industry back in the 70s was very much afflicted with the what I like to call the independent wrestler syndrome, where other promotions, where other groups would call in and report them to get them arrested, so they could shut down
Well,
any production.
from what I understand, I didn't come into it until the mid '80s, early to mid '80s. It was illegal in California, and if you were shooting in California, they would look for you. Um, Kelly Nichols is my best friend, and she was around during that time period, and she refused to shoot in California because it was too dangerous. She would go to New York, where they didn't give a fuck, and make films there. San Francisco was a little bit less lenient, or a little more lenient, because they had the Mitchell brothers up there, and they kind of just took over the town.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I saw a documentary on them, and that was pretty fascinating.
They were such a I've got a book that I'm working on that I've been working on forever, but I'm actually getting much more active in it and hope to have it finished soon. But uh there's some I've got, behind the scenes stories that no one knows about. Just so many people. And I'm not a kiss and tell kind of girl. It's more of a this is what it was really like
Well,
kind of a
and
story.
I'm sure I read Tracy Lord's book, and I'll be honest with you.
Don't make me vomit. I hope the cunt dies. I hope her tits rot and fall off. I hate the fucking cunt. Off limits.
Well, yeah, that was the one thing where I read the book, and it seemed more like a lot of fantasy,
She's
and,
so
and
full of
that's what I like to
shit.
hear. I mean, I would love to hear somebody like Janie Robbins make a book.
JD Robbins would make an amazing book.
Um,
Tracy's was what they told her to write at the time to make her seem. There's nothing nice I can say about that cunt. Nothing. And I've known her for a long time. And I still, we run into each other here and there. And she's just an evil, nasty, dead eyed, dried up, nasty cunt.
well, and I think we should point out at this point, you beat her out as the first Vivid girl
I did. I
that
did.
they.
It was between me and her, and they chose to go with the real woman.
Yeah, and let's go ahead and delve into this since we're on the subject of it. Um, uh, for those who don't know, Tracy Lords actually started in the adult film industry when she was 15. She was actually a penthouse pet when she was 16. Um, and they found out about it.
You you've got it a little backwards. She was a penthouse pet. Uh, you could not be a penthouse pet if you were a porn star.
Oh,
That was against the rules at the time. So she was a porn star before she was a penthouse pet.
gotcha. Okay. Well, then everything started with 16. So she was underage.
Yes.
And this was one of the scandals that rocked a booming, a burgeoning industry. Now, of course, adult entertainment has always been something that people want and people crave. But her throwing that actual curveball set the industry back quite a bit. Now,
It
uh,
wasn't just Tracy throwing the curveball. There were other people involved, including government people, government officials. There were a lot of people involved that knew exactly what she was doing from the day she started doing it and encouraged her. I've got paperwork, I've got documents, I've got proof. It was all set up, it was all a plan. Everybody knew about it, and the government was just as involved and just as, if not more, responsible than she was.
well, and that's the reason why you need to finish your book.
Yes, absolutely.
But now, here's where you come into it. Um, now, I'll wait for the book as far as foreknowledge goes, but at the time, this was such a big thing that the federal government got involved. They were throwing down indictments, and they subpoenaed you to testify. Is that correct?
Yes, Tracy Lords provided a document, I don't know what you call it. It was a piece of paper where she said, these are the three people that can help you take down the entire adult film industry. Myself, Tom Byron, and Harry Reams were the three people listed. I was asked not so nicely to speak in front of the district attorney. I refused. My attorney came to me and said, if you don't, or the U.S. attorney came to me and said, if you don't testify against these 64 adult film producers on Tracy Lord's behalf, we will make your life difficult. I was the first one they went after. I went before the grand jury. I was shown photos of Tracy Lords and myself and lots of other people, most of them Tracy Lords, shot from behind a bush, from on top of a roof, from over here, over there. There are shots that they showed me that I was supposed to identify the people in the photos that were taken like from you're like, are you fucking kidding me? So they knew what was going on. I have a really shitty memory. I didn't recognize anyone, and 5 years later, they tried to charge me with tax evasion. I paid my taxes. They got me on a technicality. They called it willfully subscribing to a false tax return. There was a 2000. How much was it? $2,087.14. 1099 that I never received. It was not mandatory that people 1099 you. The employers 1099 the employees at that point in time. So the money was in my account, but unaccounted for as to where it came in. They said that was willfully subscribing to a false tax return. I was up for 3 counts. They charged me on 1. I was facing 6 years in prison. Uh, and I ended up spending 4 months and 17 days in federal prison.
Wow. That and that's amazing because of the fact that they were they were clamping down and this I cannot believe the oh woe is me story. I was drawn into porn when I was underage. Uh,
Bullshit.
yeah,
She
uh,
was the sluttiest, sleaziest girl I ever met. I met her in a parking lot and I thought she was a truck driver.
now.
Seriously. You know what? I have to be really rude for here. I need to take a 30-second pee pee break.
Oh no, that's okay because I wanted to make sure and point people to the descriptors. So go for it.
Okay, let them know to go where to my websites are while I'm gone.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm
Oh,
gonna do.
perfect. I'll be right back.
Okay. And of course, if you haven't checked down in the descriptor, please do so. Ginger's links are down there. Her Twitter, the official website of gingerlynn.com. Of course, her art website, where we'll be talking about that soon. And of course, the Instagram, where it's kind of a pretty cool Instagram, where it's just not pictures of foodies, people taking pictures of what they're eating today. You can actually see her in the process of doing her paintings. And I think that's fantastic. Also, there's some of my links down there. If you like what I do, if you want to support what I do, of course, my Streamlabs and my Patreon are there. But of course, if you want to buy the best bootleg Medicare merchandise on the website, then stop by the Doc Griffin T Public store. And even more important, there are a lot of great content providers out there. So the prescription for additional entertainment has the people that I like to watch. When I'm not online, these are the people that entertain me, that make me think, that give me the ability to be entertained. And I invite you to stop by and check out their channels. Also, throw a little like, maybe a sub. Now, most of these people have more subs than I do, but that doesn't make a difference because I still believe that they are criminally undersubbed. And I would also like to make sure we've got about 15 minutes until the top of the hour. So if you do have questions for Ginger Lynn, please do feel free and post them in the chat, and we will get them asked. The show runs in a cooperation with our audience. So we like to make sure that you are involved with it as well. And of course, we will be talking about, and I do have a slideshow that I lovingly created with Ginger's actual art that she paints. And we'll be able to take a look at that too. Um, I I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised. I was, and I think it's very creative. I think it's very, very um, uh, in insightful. I think it's kind of uh, a primal type of art, and I think it can literally uh, be enjoyed. It's something that I personally would not mind having one of those hanging on the wall. And my wife, who was a graduate of an art school, uh, we have many of her paintings hanging up on the wall. And I love my wife, but I think Ginger's got a little more quality to her work. You can see the passion in the strokes. And no, that was not a double entendre, Geo. But yes, please do feel free to have your questions available, and we will go ahead and ask them. Of course, questions that have respect to them. Something,
I'm
something,
back and I heard that.
yeah, something that you would like to know. And I have been playing up the fact that in the second hour, when we go into the Q&A, I will be running the slideshow that I made up. I went onto your art website and I
Oh,
downloaded
thank
about
you.
50 plus paintings. So
What's the name of my art website?
the art website is located also in the descriptor. It's gingerlynnart.com.
Thank you.
And oh yeah, I had that listed down because that was. I'll be honest with you. I mean, adult film actress is great, but like I said before we went on air, it's the things that get you to the evolution to the person that you are, which really intrigues me, and makes me want to ask more questions, and makes and because you know there's too many people who get caught in the stigma of saying, "Oh, well, that was an adult film actress," and that's it. And it's like you don't really understand that if somebody is a writer like myself, I'm more than just an actual writer. I do other things.
Exactly.
We are a mosaic of our experiences, and we perform in many different ways. And it's it's
Well, I have to tell you, I went from being an adult film, I went from management to being an adult film star to realizing that I wanted to be an actress, studied for 6 years. I've done more mainstream projects than I have adult. I got into music videos. When I decided to stop doing adult films, I fell back on something my grandmother taught me when I was a child, and I still do this. My grandmother taught me how to design jewelry, and I owned a house in Beverly Hills. The day I decided to stop filming, I'd owned my home, imagined for like, oh, maybe 6 months. And I woke up one day and went, I don't want to do porn anymore. Now I still had a mortgage to pay. And what I did was I went down to a bead store in downtown Los Angeles. I spent $3,000 on crystals and beads and findings and turquoise and sterling silver and Swarovski crystals, and I designed and sold my jewelry on commission and paid my mortgage in Beverly Hills for 3 years selling jewelry. And since then, I've just kind of kept growing. I put an album out. I knit, I sew, I design, and now the last 20 years or so, I've I've fallen into I write and I knit and I paint every day.
well, and that's the thing. We are all the sum of our parts. and to just look at someone. And I know we have somebody in the chat right now. She's never
Okay.
watched an adult film in her life, and
And
I told
interesting.
her, I said, listen, this isn't about porn. This isn't. This interview is not about sex. It's about a person and their evolution to becoming what they are today. And one of my uh, one of my things, and I know the chat's going to ride me on this, but um, the thing that I like to point out is everybody that I interview likes to flex their peck, which is you have to have passion for what you do, you have to make the effort to do it, and you have to be committed to see it all the way through.
I'm flexing right now, baby.
And
uh,
let's talk a little bit about your mainstream. Um,
okay.
I know that you had some basic stuff, but it seems like you became almost like a good luck charm for Rob Zombie in doing his movies.
Well, it started out with the Vice Academy series.
Mm-hmm.
So I was doing the Up All Night with Joe Bob Briggs, those movies for a while. I did an episode of NYPD Blue that was nominated for 5 Emmys, won three, and I was the guest star. I've done Silk Stockings. I've done Wing Commander 3 and 5. I did the Metallica video, Turn the Page.
I was gonna
Uh,
say that blew me away.
which one? The Metallica video?
Yeah, with Turn the Page, I
Yeah.
was like, what? Wait a minute. Let's rewind that for a second.
Yeah, that was one of the most amazing experiences of my life. Lars, the drummer from Metallica, was a fan of mine, and Jonas Åkerlund, the director, was as well. And it was about a 3 month period. They kept begging me to be in the film, not begging, but wanting me to come in and audition, I should say. And I did not want to be a B movie, or not a B movie, but a porn star in a video. I wanted, at that point, it was very important to me to do projects that I was proud of. And I didn't want to be just another token porn star in a video. Plus, I was a huge Bob Seger fan, and I did not want to see Metallica bastardize one of my favorite songs. So I refused to see them. And the final night, I was actually in a hotel in Waco, Texas. I had my son, my bodyguard, my nanny, my assistant. I just finished dancing for like 3 weeks. And my agent called. I was in the lobby and they said, "You've got a phone call." My agent said, "Jonas is waiting. He's at the Chateau Marmont. Please just meet him." And I said, "I'll tell you what, I've got overalls on, my hair's in a ponytail, I'm not wearing a shred of makeup, and I've got a small entourage with me. I will stop on the way back from the hotel. My flight will arrive in this many hours, and I'll meet with them." And I fell in love with the project. I fell in love with Jonas. I fell in love with the storyline. We found many things that we connected with. And I got Jonas is like, "You're it." And then the next day, the producer called and said they changed their mind because I looked too good. And I'm like, "What?" And they said, "Yeah, we thought you would look more haggard by now." And I
Oh,
and I'm like, "Well, I can there's makeup. Let's and I'll eat nachos and ice cream for 2 weeks straight." And so I ended up begging them for the role. And I did get it.
well, and uh, see, that's the thing. You can tell about people who are real actors if you don't have lines,
Yeah, I didn't have any dialogue in that.
but you made your impact.
That was the first thing that I've ever done that my father, there was a big MTV premiere, and my father called me up and he said, "Honey, I am so proud of you. You did a really good job." And that meant the world to me.
And
That
yeah, I really think it was amazing performance. I also think your performance in NYPD Blue proves the fact that you're not just a sex scene worker.
Well, and getting back to Rob, Rob has been wonderful with me, and the role in The Devil's Rejects, I had the opportunity to play with it a little bit, and I was so thrilled. The problem with 31 for me is that I've got 20 minutes on the floor of the my character development with Doomhead, who plays my boyfriend. The way that you see the film now, I could just as well be a hooker or a girl off the street. In reality, Richard Brake, my co-star who played Doomhead, and I, Rob said, stick with the script and then go have fun. So we did, and there were 4 edits to get it to the point where they could release it with an R rating, and they cut out, all of my characters. So as much as I love Rob and I would work for him again in a second, I felt bad that they had such a great film that they had to edit down to what it ended up being, which is entertaining, but not anywhere near what the original script was.
Well, and can we just roll back a little bit?
Sure.
Because I know what happened with the Devil's Rejects. Can you explain what your basically your physical makeup was at that point?
Well, I was originally cast as one of the two couples, the women, the two couples that one gets her face cut off, and they're in the hotel room in the motel. That was my original role. 2 weeks before filming, I've been a martial artist since 1989, and I fight. I've had 4 knee surgeries, my lips through my or my teeth through my lips, broken ribs, broken hands, fingers. I've broken everything because I really fight. And 2 weeks before we were filming, I was fighting and I tore my ACL, my MCL, and my meniscus. Uh, it was bad. And so I called my agent and said, because in my original character, there was a lot of physicality, a lot of running. And I said, I can't do this. So my agent tells me it's all set, you're fine. I get to the set. Now I'm on crutches. I've got a cast on my left leg from my thigh to my ankle. And they get me on the set, and Rob said, they just told me you couldn't run. I'm like, no, I can't walk. And the set we were on was so tiny. It was in the middle of the desert, and the AC tubes that came through took up 50% of the room. It was so small. And so I had to be kind of like at a mosh party where they pass you around. They had to pass me down the line to get me to Sid, who was already laying on the bed in his dirty, tidy whities, and I'm wearing nothing but a corset. So my pussy's hanging out, my tits are hanging out. They plopped me down on Sid. I'm like, hello, nice to meet you. And so when you watch the scene, you only see me from the front, the right side, and the back because my left leg is straight out to the side in a cast.
Yeah, I honestly think that that was amazing filming. I had heard the story and I went back to take a look, and yeah, you cannot tell that you were encumbered.
Oh, I was in so much pain, it was ridiculous. And I couldn't take anything because I was acting.
Oh yeah, and I think that bears a little bit of explanation because, of course, when we're talking about the adult film industry, cocaine flowed like champagne in the 70s and the 80s.
In the 80s, yeah.
Um,
And I have to tell you, that was I did it half a dozen times on and I don't know why because it's the most non-sexual drug in the world. You grind your teeth, all you want to do is talk. Your mouth is full of cotton. You can't suck dick, you can't fuck. I don't want to fuck. All I want to do is talk. So it was the worst drug in the world. And what we ended up doing, or what I ended up doing, was celebrating after I finished a film. those were the times where we partied because I was not functional. I wasn't my best, and I don't want to do anything that I'm not the best that I can be at. And cocaine just was not meant for fucking, in
Eh,
my opinion.
I will not disagree. To me it was a distraction,
Absolutely, absolutely.
and I know we're at the top of the hour, so we're gonna start with some questions. But
Okay.
I want to do this first. There we go. Okay, I wanted to get this scroll rolling because people in the chat have been saying, well, where's the paintings? So there you go. Uh,
There we
we're
go. Yay.
we're gonna start scrolling through these, and some of these are amazing. Um,
Thank you.
Honestly, I would be proud to have any one of these on my wall.
Oh, thank you.
And now, if you didn't hear it before, uh, most of these paintings are already sold. So I don't mean to be
Well,
a tease,
there's
but
there's out of the 90 or so that are up there, about half of them are sold. But there are new paintings that are added on a daily basis. What you have to do is the website is set up that you have to go page by page to see everything. And unfortunately, I can only add pages at the end. So there's a page that says newest paintings, and then you want to scroll down to the last page first and go backwards. That way you'll see what's mostly available, all of my newer pieces.
well,
So
and
don't be discouraged.
I really like the Asian influenced ones.
I love those pieces. I love those pieces. Those are not sold.
Those are beautiful, and
Thank
um,
you.
so yeah, I'm gonna take you off screen so we can sit here and watch some artwork go by, and we'll ask our first question. Kadut in the chat says, "Did you have any pornographic works that inspired some of your art? If so, any in particular that you'd be willing to discuss?"
Ah, you know, I've done several portraits of women in the industry. I did a Nina Hartley that sold. I did a Christy Canyon. I have a Misty Stone. Uh, one of the paintings that again is sold is called Poppy, and it's a three-piece section. It's one of my favorite pieces. Uh, that was kind of a piece that I did that shows the transition of me as a person. The first panel of the painting is blurry. It's part of an eye, and it's a heart, and it's the ocean, and you're not quite sure what it is. The second panel is a little bit clearer, and the third panel is completely clear. And that was my transition from the beginning of adult films, where I was finding my way, to the middle where I kind of knew who I was, and to the end when I got out of it and became the woman that I was after being in the adult industry. So Poppy is one of my all-time favorites. Um,
Yeah, as a matter
anything
of
else?
fact, when you were talking about it, the one for Christy Canyon and Nina Hartley came up.
They popped up.
Yep.
Well, don't be discouraged because of the ones that say sold. There's many, many, many on there that are not sold. I just finished my first self portrait. Uh, and that's based on porn completely. People have been asking me to do self portraits for so long, and I am not a portrait artist. I am just not. So this piece, I wanted to capture my energy, and I did that with the colors. I wanted to capture what I was like in the 80s, which was extremely athletic and not muscle bound, but just very toned and fit. And then there's one I can't. I call her avocado ass. Um, I think it's all. It's what? It's an Elvis song. Is the name of it. I I can't think of it. But there's one that looks like a girl that her ass looks like avocados.
Um, I don't know if it's the one that just passed.
Well, there's all kinds of good things that you can find on there, and I'm getting more and more into the nudes, and I'm taking actual photographs of myself. I'm going to do one from New Wave Hookers in the near future, and so my abstract women will be actually composed of photographs of me from the 80s.
And
Oh,
I, yeah, everything's. I spent a whole day downloading, and I did a little bit of correcting because there were numbers listed on some of them. So I kind of fudged a bit and erased the numbers so people could
whatever
get,
you need to do.
yeah, so people could get the full breadth of the artwork that you're doing. And I think it's amazing. Um,
Thank you. Thank you.
I think there's a lot of brilliance that comes into it because I mean honestly you can have people who will just basically do something on the side and just because it is that person they'll buy it, but I do think there's integrity in the works that you're making right now.
They all mean something to me. They all have a story behind them, every single one of them. I don't know if the brand new one is up. There's one that looks like a moon. It is a moon, and it's kind of browns, and there's big circles underneath of it with turquoise on the side. Do you see that one?
um I believe I did upload that one.
You did well. Anyway, that one it it was a really simple story. I woke up a couple of weeks ago, and when I was a little girl, I used to stay at my great aunt's house a lot, and she had a spare bedroom that was full of junk. It was basically a hoarding room, with the exception of this beat up old bed that was probably 100 years old. And you know how there's like a body print in the middle when the mattress has been worn down?
Yeah.
This was more like a dog had made circles running around. It was like a nest. And so all of us used to fight over who got to sleep in that wiggle bed. It was the most uncomfortable, springs poking out the bottom kind of thing. And I woke up a couple weeks ago and it was raining. And it was about 4:30 in the morning, and they were those big splat raindrops against the window. They were like they must have been the size of baseballs, they sounded like. And I got up and I remembered the wiggle bedroom, and I went in, and that was my view from the bed. So that to me is a very personal, it was something that was from my childhood. There's another piece now that looks like a tree and a woman dancing. You can't tell what it is. Is it a tree? Is it a woman? Uh that is one of my newest pieces, and that's called Dancing in the Wind, and I combined a woman with a tree. I love that piece.
and
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 go ahead.
what is your reward off of this?
Um, I get lost. You know, one of the things I loved about doing porn is that when I was fucking, my mind was nowhere else. I wasn't thinking about what I had to do later, if my hair looked funny, if my mascara was running. I was in and doing what I was doing. I messed up my hair and makeup to the point where my makeup artist hated me. You couldn't touch me up. You had to do me over. So what I get, and I used to think of it kind of like a dance. I would start the scene and get lost in what I was doing. No other thoughts crossed my mind. And I find the same thing when I'm writing. I find the same thing when I'm painting. I am completely lost in what I'm doing. I can go in my art room. Sometimes I'll be in there, I'll go manic and be there for 3 days. And I just have something that it's a memory, it's a feeling, it's a song, it's a smell. It's something that I need to get out.
That's one of those things. When the muse hits you, you must comply.
And yeah, and there's times where I won't paint for a year. I got nothing. Right now, I am on an extremely motivated creative cycle or in one.
And it shows. Legitimately, and I won't I won't go into cost. That's completely up to you if you would like to discuss that.
Well, I can just let people know that we have things as low as $150. We have prints for 175. You can buy something. The average piece is probably about 500. You can go up to 5,000. So you can get something for $100. You can get something for $5,000.
Well, and here's the thing that I like because it's impressionistic painting, and um, it's it's something, and I'm not just I'm not just fanboying out at this point, but regardless, if it wasn't Ginger Lynn actually doing the paintings, um, I I believe there should be as much or more respect for it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um, I didn't see the one with Misty. As a matter of fact, Misty Stone was one of the people that I was also trying to get on because she's one of the new wave.
I love Misty. I love her. Good luck when you book her. Know that she'll be 2 hours late. And she'll tell you that. I love Misty. Love her to death, but I always when I schedule her, I have another site. I have an auction site called gingerlinauctions.com, and I created it for the women in the adult industry that woke up one day like I did and went, "Fuck, I don't want to suck dick anymore." And so it's an adult eBay, and the girls wear their lingerie one, two, three times tops in the film, and then there's nothing to do with it anymore. So my website, gingerlinauctions.com, is designed for anybody. If you're Lisa Loopy and you want to post your dirty underwear on there, go for it. It's free. There are no charges, no costs, nothing. It is designed for the women in the industry to make money on. A lot of times the girls, they'll be too busy, so they'll come to me, bring me their lingerie, and I will shoot them in theirs. I just shot Kenna James today and Nina Hartley about 2 weeks ago. We have over 400 live auctions up at the time,
uh,
and it's a nice way to get a pair of your favorite porn stars' personal items.
well, and can I ask you a serious question?
No.
Did did Nina Hartley make a deal with the devil?
Does she not look so fucking amazing that you hate her?
Yeah.
I That woman, I was editing some of her photos today, and I'm just like, how is she still so beautiful? She is stunning and intelligent and articulate and beautiful, and just one of my best friends ever. I love Nina.
Yeah.
Love her. I love, I don't have any enemies in the industry. There's two people I don't like, Ron Jeremy and Tracy Lords. Other than that, I know that we talked about them both, and I probably sounded kind of bitchy. Those are the two that make the hair on my neck stand up. Other than that, I get along with everybody. I
Yeah,
really do.
and I've watched some of uh, uh, Nina's non sexual commentaries, and yeah, she's an amazing person. She's another person who would definitely be welcome to the show. But I do
Uh,
want to make sure there's the questions are pouring in here. Um,
okay,
so
let's go.
so I don't want to ignore the audience because they are what makes
No,
the
let's bring him
show.
in.
Smoke Easy asks, "What was the favorite and least favorite thing you've ever filmed?" Um, I, I don't know. That seems to be you need to be a little bit more definitive on it, but
Well, I could probably, let's go with, I'll do adult and mainstream. Uh, Favorite adult film, Trashy Lady, uh, as well as The Pleasure Hunt, the original New Wave Hookers, Grafenberg Spot.
No,
Those are the ones that come to mind that were my favorites.
New Wave Hookers was a pretty good comedy.
It was hysterical. It was so well done, and I love the Dark Brothers. Least favorite, Saw the parody, uh, and I did a film with an actor, and I won't say the name of the actor or the film, but I will say it was my first interracial. I was very excited about it. I got there, and my co star was so excited that he got to the point he came as soon as I touched him. It was like, what? And so the whole scene was shot, and we had to wait for 2 hours for him to be able to do it again. So that was not fun.
it,
Um,
it wasn't Johnny Keys, was it?
no, no. There was a scene in one of my comeback films for VCA. One of my favorite all time actresses ever, will not say her name. We're doing the scene, and it just so happened that her tushy was in my face, and it smelled so bad. It was just, and it wasn't like dirty. She just has a really nasty fucking smell. And it was so hard, and I couldn't say anything or do anything. If it were anyone else, I would have stopped the scene. But this is one of my favorite people, and it was just her natural smell, odor, taste, and there was nothing. And I'd heard about it, but what I gasped. So those are my adult worst experiences and best experiences. Mainstream best experience, toss up. Oh God, doing the Jerry Bruckheimer series, Skin was amazing. Metallica video will always be one of my top favorites. Both of my Rob Zombie movies, especially The Devil's Rejects. And I just finished a film this summer. It's called Dirty Blonde, and I'm not allowed to talk too much about it yet, but one of the best roles I've ever been offered, and just an amazing experience. Worst mainstream experience was on American Pie Band Camp, and the director, oh, I don't remember what his name was the biggest asshole in the entire world. And when we were finished filming, we had ADR, which is when you go in and you do voiceovers. Let's say you did a scene and the sound didn't pick up correctly. So you go into a studio, you have three beeps, and then you deliver your dialogue trying to match your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my father was visiting, and I said, what do we voice over? And can my father come down? They're like, yeah, no problem. I said, Steve, this is my dad. I think his name was Steve. And he said, no, no problem. Get there. We're in the room. I'm doing my voiceovers. The first image comes up. I'm butt naked, and my dad is sitting there. And I thought, what an asshole thing to do. Why would you do that? I mean, obviously, I left. My father left. We all left, and I had to go back another time. But I haven't had too many bad experiences, but that one was just crude and rude and completely. Why would you do that to me and my dad?
Yeah,
You know?
that's kind of assholish nature.
You think?
Um, and there are quite a few people that want to read that book. So if you need any type of inspiration to write it, then you've definitely got it in this chat. And
Well, it's right now. It's called "I Don't Look Good on Paper," and it's about. I'm close to 400 pages, so it's nearly done.
well, a book takes the length that it takes.
It'll never be done in my mind, but
Well,
I hope to have it ready. Uh, Not this New Year's or this New Year coming up, but by 2020.
and Steven Spielberg himself said, "Movies are never finished; they're just abandoned."
I never heard that one before. That's a good one.
Our next question is: your book based on the while your based on your life experiences, or simply your adult film experience?
My book is based on my life experience. My if I look at my life like a pie, my adult portion was one slice of pie. I have a whole, I have experienced more things in my lifetime than most people have. I think that everyone believes they have a book in them, uh, but mine is a memoir, and I think that people will be surprised. I don't focus just on the choices that I made, but why I made them, how they made me feel. What it's an inside look as to what it was like from growing up to getting on the plane to make my first film, to deciding to retire from films, to going into mainstream, to dating Charlie Sheen, to dating George Clooney, to dating Billy Idol, to all the. I have a whole chapter called Boys, 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 through drug addiction and recovery, through uh, being a mother that's a porn star and what it was like going through that with my child. It is a story and a memoir that encompasses my entire life.
So, what did inspire you to start painting?
Uh, my son, my son, I wanted to do creative things. My grandmother taught me all these great girly things, and I thought, what can I do with my son that's creative, that's not girly? And I just went out, bought a few canvases, some paints, and we just started painting. I've got one room in my house, one of my guest rooms is just nothing but paintings that my son did.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And honestly, I I really think that from the discussion that we have, that there's a very positive experience between mother and child, and uh, I think once again there's another one of those stigmas that says that, oh well, if you did adult films, then there's no way that you could ever be a good mother. What's
What does one have to do with the other? Everybody fucks. Everybody. There would be no one here if we didn't. I just did it in front of a camera. It didn't change who I was, what type of person I was, the belief system that I had, the way that I treat other people, the way that I raise my son. Uh, I don't see where one crosses over into the other. I did have the time frame when I had to make the decision to tell my son. And that was his freshman year of high school. And we were driving to school. And my thought, the way I presented it to him was, when you want to laugh, what kind of a movie do you go to see? Is that a comedy? When you want to cry, what do you do? When you're sad, you watch a drama. When you want to get scared, you watch a scary movie. There are movies that are made just for adults, and I made movies for adults. And his response was, yeah, I knew from friends in school. And that was about it. We've had deeper conversations since then, but it didn't affect the way that I talked to my son, that I raised my son, that I fed my son. It made me, if anything, more involved in his life. I was looking through a couple of my scrapbooks the other night. I was at every single school function my son had, and in his junior high school, they had a Renaissance fair every year. I painted all dozen of their Renaissance fair signs that go with it. I've got pictures of all the kids wearing orange noses or red noses because I went in and read them a clown story. It made me probably overcompensate as far as being a good mother, because I felt that I wanted him to just to know me, the real mom. We every Sunday we did what we called a road trip, and we would just get in the car and drive and end up. I'd usually have a final destination in mind without telling him, but we, you know, we. I spent more time with my son than I know of any other parent that I've ever met. And I had the luxury to do that because my work was always from home. I hosted radio for 12 years. So, I've always worked.
Well, and I think the ironic thing is what you do in the bedroom does not reflect to how you rear your children. And
No,
there are very obtuse people out there who believe that your sexual proclivities are going to in some way infect or affect your children. And a mom
well,
is a
and
mom, a dad is
they
a dad.
they are right in that. We've had to deal with. I mean, it's difficult when your mom is Ginger Lynn. I'm not, Monica Mounds, that nobody really knew who she was in the first place, or even if there was one. I became bigger than that. But my son has been able to focus on the fact that my adult film career was so small, such a short part of my life, such a small piece of it, that he knows everything else. He's seen the whole pie.
Well, but it's kind of strange, and I'll go back to AVN ranking you as the seventh greatest porn star of all time. Um, that's impactful. That's hard to get away from, and um, I know just from speaking with you in this brief amount of time that that isn't what you are. It's a part of what you are.
Exactly. Exactly.
And wow, I'm going to try to catch up with the questions because they're coming fast
Okay,
and furious.
let's go.
Um, uh, Bubonic for you asks, please ask Ginger what your favorite sandwich is to make.
Ruben,
Mm.
Ruben, I love I love to cook. I love the rye bread. I love buttering it. I love putting the Thousand Island sauce on. I make a whole little setup. I've got my buttered bread. Next to that's my Thousand Island. Then my first set of cheese. Then my corned beef. Then another set of cheese. Then more of my Thousand Island. I Everything I do is artistic. When I cook a Reuben, it's laid out in every single step and it's beautiful. And it's toasted and it's browned and it's just I make a killer fucking Reuben.
And men, I will say this out here right now that if you don't think cooking is an art, then you're missing it.
If I had to say God gave me a talent, that would be my number one talent. I can cook like nobody else.
Yeah, I was raised by briars and hillbillies, so I can cook anything and everything, and I think that's probably the reason why my wife married me and has been with me for 10 years. So,
Yeah, my man and I are coming up on 10 years. I don't think he's ever going to leave with my as long as I keep cooking.
oh well, congrats on the decade.
I know, right? Totally. I have not been with another man since. I'm and by choice. If I decided one day that I wanted to sleep with other men, I would tell him, but I don't. I have found my partner. I have found my man.
And and
Um,
and honestly, isn't it amazing that there is somebody that's willing to put up with your shit for a decade?
are you kidding me? And a man who is secure enough with who he is as a man to be able to deal with the day to day. My email, my phone calls, everything that comes in, us going out to a Mexican restaurant. Excuse me. It's a constant. I live with it. I look like I look. I look like me
Well, I'm sure you still get recognized when you're out in public.
all the time, and especially I'm a huge hockey fan, and so when
Uh,
at the hockey games, forget about it.
who's your team? Who's your team?
Blackhawks number one.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
I understand from your raising. Okay.
right. And then I've got to go with the Golden Knights. I live in Las Vegas now, and yeah, this year we're not doing anything at all. but I was here the year that we founded and supported the team. Uh, Third would be Dallas Stars, and fourth, they sucked this year, but I was a big Kings fan for years.
Well, I was. Who wasn't a Kings fan when Gretzky was there?
Well, yeah, yeah, and who wasn't a Blackhawks? I always have been. I grew up with them, so
Um, I was a little bit more of Red Wings because of Gordy.
yeah, yeah, I get it. I just can't get over the Red Wings. All I can think about is eating pussy and with a period. I can't. I cannot get over their name.
Okay, understandable. John Doe asks, "What does Ginger think of the modern cam girl scenes?"
You know what? I think they're hot. And I love the fact that the girls will do what the guys want them to do. I think it's a perfect way for girls that are wanting to make some extra money, don't want to get into porn where there are uh, problems. Let's just say let's just say it's much safer to be a cam girl, and I give them all the credit in the world. Any sex worker that is willing to make sure that they are safe and healthy, and they're making money and they're pleasing their fans, they're giving their fans exactly what they want. More power to both of them.
Well, and I think if people haven't
But
watched, I think it's still on Netflix. After the porn part two.
After Porn Ends to Ape 2, yes, it
Yes,
is still on Netflix. I highly recommend you check it out. And it's
brilliant.
part.
Oh no, that's all I was saying. That it was brilliant. I
Thank you.
watched I watched both of them, and it's amazing. Although I honestly didn't think Seiko was still alive.
Oh my God, Seika is she is the word that I use to describe Seika is broad. Seika is a broad. I love her to death. She's alive and kicking. She's one of the funniest, foul-mouthed, scary women I've ever met, and I could not love her more.
Yeah,
She sounds like she smoked more cigars and drank more whiskey, and she's just got that foul mouth. I've got a foul mouth, but Seika is my favorite broad.
well, and once again, that's another one of the people that I would like to have on, because one of my big things is being able to dispel a lot of myths.
Right.
And there were so many people who sent me emails like, oh, porn stars, they're junkies, they're drugged out, they have daddy issues. And I was like, you really just don't get this, do you?
Well,
Because
that
it's
happens in any fucking industry. I mean, there's those unfortunately and sadly there's junkies and daddy issues and fucked up childhoods. There's no such thing as a normal family. Every family is dysfunctionally normal. And there's always an issue. And to just say that, oh, it's porn, and I will say that the entertainment industry as a whole, not the porn section alone, the entire fucking thing. We are all insecure people who want to prove that we've got something special. We want you to see it. We want you to know it. We're insecure people.
well, and I
and
and
and I say that about I've met and know many, 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 and we're all the same. We
and
just want to be we just want to be loved.
I did want to throw out that Smoke Easy from the Streamlabs dropped 10 and said, Ginger is a good one.
Aw, thank you.
Um, and yeah, see, I don't want to be pedantic. I don't want to be preachy, but uh, if you're looking at somebody for just what they're representing on the celluloid, then you're missing the big picture. Um, a lot of the people that I have interviewed, and I didn't want to bring it up because it was taboo, but I've talked with Ron Jeremy, and I just was not impressed. Um,
There's nothing impressive about a rapist. Absolutely nothing.
yeah, I was I did a pre-screen with him, and I decided that no, we're not going to go this way.
Yeah.
Somebody like if Jerry Butler was still around, or if Tom Byron wants to talk, those are people that I want to talk with because they've advanced themselves instead of um, declining into
Exactly.
a malaise of just this is all I'm ever going to be, and living out of shopping bags, going from gig to gig is not really someone that I want to present to my audience because they don't represent the whole flex your pec thing. They have no
Eh,
passion, they have no effort, and no commitment to what they're doing. They're just doing it because they know they can cut a paycheck.
Well, and with Viagra, anybody can do it. That was one thing that was so special about porn in the 80s is that everybody was there and was turned on by the person they were with. You had to be, unless you just sunk back into your mind someplace else. But then like I could call you back in a heartbeat. Do not look away from me. You are right here with me. We are doing this dance. You're not dancing with anybody else right now. Nobody's cutting in. It's you and me and you and me only.
Now, I hope this isn't a touchy subject, but you had a scene with Holmes, John Holmes,
Oh, several of them, about half a dozen.
and um, there were many people like Aunt Peg who had said that John Holmes was a complete and total asshole.
Yeah, see, I just as I don't know you, the only you I know is this wonderful interview we're having. I have no idea what you look like, who you are. And if someone were to ask me about you, I would say that you were very professional, you were very kind, you did a fantastic interview, you know what you're doing, and that would be what I would say about you. That I enjoyed spending time with you and that you were fantastic. Now, my experience with John Holmes, my experience was nothing but wonderful. John was never high. He was never fucked up. He was professional. He was fun. He was like my big brother. He looked out after me. The John Holmes that I knew in the at least six films we did together was a kind, caring, and hot man
Well,
with a
and let me
big
ask this:
dick.
how much of a shockwave did it send through you when they finally came out and said that he had AIDS?
Well, I've always been like OCD and like a clean freak. And so I went to my gynecologist every month before anyone had ever heard of HIV. So I'd heard that there was a disease pretty much right when I started in the industry that could kill you. And so I tested on a regular basis and made sure that I was healthy. I did not know what other people were doing, but I was like Inspector Gadget. I'm looking at every single little part of your body. It may look like I'm just about to suck your dick. I'm doing inspection, baby. So there were things that obviously were out of my control, but I got good karma.
And Kaduna's asking, "Ooh, do you still have jewelry out there for sale?"
How I do still have jewelry out there for sale. I've got about 20 pieces that I need to post. Those will be up at gingerlinauctions.com. I'll put those up, and I'll put some of my paintings up there as well. So yes, I absolutely do, and some newer pieces that are just stunning.
And I'm going to go ahead. So uh, I apologize for my stuttering here, but I'm going to try to add that to the descriptor
Oh, thank you.
um, because It's my whole thing is I want to make sure that my grandfather, who is a Pentecostal apostolic minister, used to say
Oh,
that.
I had a Southern Baptist.
Oh, okay, okay, then you know what I'm feeling.
Oh yeah.
Um, the whole thing to him was, you can't just judge a person first off. People are like diamonds, and they have many facets.
Mm, I like that. I
And
like that.
and
And you know what I'm going to have to do here? I've got a 7 o'clock meeting. I didn't know that this was a 2 hour show. Can we get to some more of the questions? And then I'm going to have to wrap up in the next few minutes. I am so
oh
sorry.
yeah, I will hammer down, and we will have you out in 18 minutes.
Okay.
That's going to be at the top of the hour, so we'll get you out.
Okay. Okay.
Um, let's see here. Let me scroll down. I think we already answered the dad and kids. Um, Jack T. Ripper, the Gulf City serial killer, asks, "What are your thoughts about the movie Orgasmo?"
I have not seen the movie Orgasmo. I don't even know. I haven't even heard about it. What's Orgasmo?
Orgasmo was done by Trey Parker and Matt Stone. It was basically the plot is a Mormon becomes a porn star, and it's incredibly interesting. It's very good. It's very funny, and they have several adult female film actresses, but they never show any nudity. Only guys' butts.
Well, I want to see penises and butts, and I want to see tits and ass and pussy hair. And no, I think they should show it all.
Well, no, but that was the whole joke.
Oh, 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 oh! I get it.
That anytime they were getting ready to get naked,
They just
they
showed.
automatically did an ass shot of a guy.
Okay, well, that's just lame.
But then again, Ron Jeremy was in it, so
Of course he was.
um,
Hey, if you need a big fat hairy ass, there's nowhere else to go.
let's go ahead. I'm tweaking right now, so I'm in betwixt. I'm putting the auction site on right now.
Are you tweaking or tweeting?
Tweaking. I'm
What is?
adding to the descriptor so it remains forever.
Oh, okay.
So there we go.
I'm
Okay,
like,
got that down.
this is a drug-free show. No tweaking here.
No, I am not a tweaker. Uh,
Okay.
um, now, John Doe asked a very good question. Does Ginger think the internet has helped or hurt the adult film industry?
Oh, all right. The adult film industry, I think it's definitely hurt. Um, the fact that anybody, no matter what your kink is, you can find it, that's a plus.
Well, Rule 34.
What's Yep, there what's missing though is honesty. And I can't imagine fucking somebody without honesty, whether I like them or not. I did several scenes with Tracy Lords. Every one of them is aggressive. I did a couple scenes with Ron Jeremy. None of them are nice. So even within my fucking, I'm honest. If I don't like you, um, and I talked about casting script approval before. Tracy was the other actress that was offered the same roles that I was at that point in time. And so there were opportunities where I had to choose, do I work or not? And I can grudge fuck just as much as just as well as the next guy. So I did do a couple of grudge fucks.
Well, and I mean, like any other business, the adult film has to be a competitive industry. Uh,
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't know how with the internet, I there's not going to be I mean, do you go out and run a movie? No, we watch everything that's on our computers, and I don't know. There's something not sexy about sitting in front of my computer playing with my pussy. It's just, I don't know. For me, it doesn't work. Like for dudes, you sit there, you jerk off, it's all great. For a girl, it does nothing for me.
Well, and yeah, my not to be too inside baseball, but my wife enjoys me watching while she's interacting.
See, now my boyfriend won't do that. I love that. I love him watching, and I'll do him. And it's like a personal thing to him. He's so cute. If I walk out and he's jerking off, he like stops and acts like he's not doing it. And I'm like, honey, if you want to go get your dick sucked by the neighbor across the street, go get your dick sucked. I'm still going to be yours. I don't want another dick, but if that's what you want, go do it.
Well, and this brings up a great question about um, is is morality contained within monogamy?
Mm, my choices are based upon my heart. Everything that I do, you know, I have difficulties because sometimes I I take directions from my head, not my heart, and I'm guided by my insecurities. So if as long as I'm true to myself and honest uh, about my morality, see, I don't really know what morals are. I know that I don't kill people. I shouldn't say I don't know what morals are. I know that it's wrong to steal. I know that it's wrong to do certain things. If I do anything that is intentionally hurting anyone else or even unintentionally, and I know I'm doing it, which doesn't make any sense at all. Um,
No, it
I'm
does.
I'm not doing the right thing. I have to go by what I feel comfortable with. For me, my morality, I'm not with my man exclusively because of my morals. I'm with my man exclusively because I love him and I can't imagine another man inside of me. Now, I do sleep with other women. I bring women home. I have full reign to sleep with any other woman whenever I want. And I don't see that as immoral or cheating or wrong. And because my boyfriend and we discuss everything. We're open, we're honest. If he wants sex with another girl, I would prefer that I'm there, but he has full permission to go and do it without me, and I don't see that as immoral at all. I made that decision to allow him the freedom to make that choice. He's my best friend. I don't own him. I don't own his body or his dick or his emotions or his lust. That's his. If he does it and he feels immoral, that's his own. I do very few things,
And
very few that I consider immoral.
and uh, irate prostate asked. He said, first off, women aren't very visually stimulated, but he did ask what was working with Bob Guccione like.
I never worked directly with Guccione. I did shoot for Penthouse. I was shot by Suze Randall. I had several conversations with Guccione, but never really got to know him. I met him once in person, but we had a very limited relationship.
And I don't know. There's just
Now, visually, I shouldn't. You should. I will look at a beautiful woman all day long. I look at women everywhere I go. Um, I don't really look at dudes because I guess because I'm just satisfied.
well, and
But
and
I love pictures of beautiful women. I look at pictures of beautiful women. I love to paint beautiful women.
well, and since we're in the last 10 minutes of it, Can you talk a little bit about your entrepreneurship right now? What you're doing with the gingerlynn.com website?
GingerLynn.com is a catch-all for anything and everything. What I do with GingerLynn.com is anything Ginger Lynn that you've ever wanted to see, we try to accommodate you and make sure that it's there. But Ginger Lynn is also, my days, my heydays are in porn are way, way far away and gone. So what I do is as I shoot the different girls for gingerlynnauctions.com, I do interviews, I get to know them a little bit more. I put those up on YouTube. So gingerlynn.com has not only the ginger that you may know and love or despise and hate, doesn't really matter to me. But if you're at my site, please join. Uh, and so that site is where you can find anything and everything that I'm doing. Ginger Lynn Auctions is where you get all of your goodies from all the girls, all your favorite porn stars, and Ginger Lynn Art is where you get my art projects. I continue to work in mainstream films. I've got two projects in the works right now. I have not accepted either deal, but they're things that I want, and I do audition on a regular basis. I auditioned for Westworld not too long ago, but I didn't get the role. I was like,
Oh,
"Oh, no, no, I want that one." And I was up it was me or, Sherilyn Fenn for a role on Shameless, and I lost out to Sherilyn Fenn because I used to be a porn star.
oh, that was a good
S
role, though.
I know, it was a great role. But the offers still come in, and, I take the ones that I'm taking fewer and fewer if it's just nudity for the sake of nudity. I'm 55 years old. I don't want to run around naked anymore. Nobody wants to see me running around naked.
Well, you're my age, so I understand. But
uh,
you still represent better in, in a chemise and
I,
stockings than I ever will.
for some reason, I've got really good genetics, and I'm very happy about that. But for people that want to know who I am and what I'm doing today, I'm a mother, I'm a sister, I'm a girlfriend, I'm a daughter, I'm an artist, I'm an actor, I'm a designer, I'm a woman, I'm a friend, I'm everything that you are. I just happen to have done adult films in my career and in my life, and I've done nothing that most people haven't done at home.
And on that, I will definitely say that I would be most proud to hang your art on my walls because I believe that it's truly visionary.
Thank you
I
so much.
and I'll go ahead to get you out of here. We're close to the 10 o'clock, and I don't have any additional questions, which are not of questionable taste. So, but let's just say that there are still fans out there, and even yeah, I did. There's so little time, but I did want to go back to your resurgence, and maybe somewhere down the road that we can speak about that. But um, I will definitely say thank you, and I'll do the outro here, and then we'll get finished. Um,
All right.
I do want to make sure and thank everybody for coming out. Of course, if you are um, if you are looking for what's coming down the road for the rest of the month, our upcoming guests, we are going to have on Random Encounters. If you haven't heard of them, they are they're pretty much a big thing on the internet. They make uh, 5 minute musicals about video games. They're incredibly hilarious. I suggest you check them out. Of course, at the end of the month, we're having on the creator and owner of the No Sleep podcast, Mr. David Cummings, coming on talking about scary things. And that's going to be an amazing show as well. And of course, if you are up late night like the rest of us insomniacs, please feel free to tune in after 2 a.m. Ish Eastern Standard Time. The Insomnia Ramble stream, which I host with my mystical, magical co host, Kadant. And that's always fun. We've got some tremendous feedback, especially with the Stanley show that we did last night. But it's pretty much about anything. And we invite everyone to come out and share the good times with us. And of course, as for tonight, I would like to thank my, uh, well, gosh, I am incredibly honored for the fact that Ginger Lynn stopped out to talk with us this evening because I
Oh,
believe not only is it an important thing, and of course, a veritable definition of my peck, which is passion, effort, and commitment. But once again, like my grandfather said, you can't enjoy a diamond if you can't see all the facets.
I
And
love that.
and that is the brilliance of Ginger Lynn Allen. I'd like to thank you very much for coming on to the show this evening. And thank you very much to the audience with some great questions once again. My name is Doc Griffin. You can catch us every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But for now, I just have to say that we thank you for coming out, and the doctor's office is closed.
Thank
Thanks.
you.